Hi YouTube. Um, Today I want to talk about Burning Man, particularly to what to bring for for your first time to Burning Man. So there's a whole lot of things on the internet, lots of lists, lots of things to bring, and so I've put together kind of a smaller list, and I wanted to do a video in particular because when I'm reading the list, it's actually kind of hard to understand the context of like why you need certain things. And so I hope that by doing this video, and I can supplement this with, there's a little shopping list in a Google spreadsheet in the description, as well as an Amazon public list for your everyday carry that hopefully that you guys can follow, and also that will help. Especially those that are going for the first time. And so I'm gonna go through three things: your everyday carry, so what you should have in your backpack or pouch. Second thing would be clothing, things that you should have on you, and then the other thing would be transportation, right? So this is going to be kind of how you move out and about the playa, and like why are these things so important. So first thing is that we're going to focus on the day carry. So I would recommend having a CamelBak or some kind of hydration pack that carries about 1 to 2 liters of water, hopefully. And the reason why is that you're in the desert, so it's going to be hot, and you're going to need water, and you're going to want to stay hydrated. Now, a tip that you want to keep in mind is that you always want to keep your pack hydrated at all times. If you're running low, start heading back to camp or find a neighbor that can, hook you up with water. So that is probably the most important thing that you'll hear from people, is making sure that you're always hydrated. It's very, very, very important. Second thing is, because it's so dry, always have chapstick. Even if you don't use chapstick, bring some chapstick. Bring some cheap chapstick if you could. Carry it with you. It's extremely dry all the time, so it's nice to apply. You don't want chapped lips. You don't bloody lips or anything like that. So please carry some on you. The next thing that I have toilet paper, like those travel size toilet paper. So I bought a 3 pack, and I've shared them. And I went last year in 2015, and I never used it because the porta potties always had toilet paper in them. But don't rely on that. Make sure that you always have your own toilet paper just in case. Also, another pro tip: go to the toilets in the morning, or like roughly after dinner. Anytime after 10 o'clock, it's a mess. So just something to keep your eyes out for. Another thing to have is a flashlight. And so last year I did bring a handheld flashlight. I rarely used it. What I used the most was the strapped ones over here. So as it gets dark, I would just put one here, and I would pull over my neck if I didn't need it, or I would put it back up and I would just turn it off and on. So that's very helpful. So please buy one. They're very inexpensive. You can get them for like maybe $5-6. If you can find them. Check Slick Deals here and there. The next thing is, make sure that you have a cup or carabiner, hooked onto your day carry, or have that on you. The reason why is that there's a lot of really cool people out there that make great food, smoothies. There's tons of beer, great drinks out there, and so there's this whole move thing where you don't want to leave any matter out of place, and so we always want to not generate trash. And so by having your own cup, people can put food in there, and you can take that with you. And what I recommend is getting kind of like a relatively shallow cup, or like a mug, so that way you can both eat and drink from it. And if you can, spend a few extra dollars and kind of get it where it's insulated, so that way your beer stays really cold, in the daytime. So that's also kind of a cool thing to have. So make sure you have that, and buy a carabiner that hooks onto it. I wouldn't bother buying the cups, with the carabiners built in. Just get the carabiner and hook it on, or find a way to tie it to your bag. Getting a quality cup is going to be important. Dust masks and schmogs, have on you, or have extra on you. I bring 2 to 3. I change them out every day, every other day, I believe. Just because it does get a little dirty after a while, and you can only turn it inside out and things like that only so many times. So make sure you have that. A knife is also going to be important, or some kind of utility tool. I've mainly only used it in setup in setup and breakdown, but not too much in between. But again, having that, because you'll never know when you'll need it, or when your neighbors will need it, or if you're out and you're biking and someone needs a helping hand, it's always good to make sure that you're prepared. And also make sure you have a snack. I'm not asking for to put a lot of food in it, but maybe like a little Cliff Bar or something like that, just to hold you over for maybe an hour or so, just in case you do find like an art installation or an event that you want to stay out there for a little longer, just to kind of hold yourself over. So that's kind of it for your everyday carry. What I recommend that you have. The next thing we'll talk about is clothes. So it's hot. You're gonna hear me say that a lot in this video, that it is really really hot. So bring hats, and bring hats with like long visors if you can, like cowboy hats or anything like that, because you don't want the sun in your face a whole lot. In addition to sunglasses, right? Again, when you buy hats or buy any clothing items, make sure, if you could, buy it from the thrift store, or bring clothes that are yours that you're willing to part with as Burning Man clothes forever, because there's so much dust and alkaline and stuff like that that gets into it, that your clothes will hardly ever be the same again. So if you look at it in a way as an investment, yeah, it's definitely a good thing to have. To buy clothes and say, hey, look, this is my Burning Man clothes. So that's what you want to do with it. Goggles are important. There's dust storms all the time. So the list will tell you to bring clear goggles and tinted goggles. And the reason why is because dust storms do not stop at night, and you don't want to be wearing tinted goggles in the middle of the night, where it's generally pretty pitch black for the most part. So make sure you have two types, and make sure that that they're covered on your peripherals, right? So that dust doesn't get into them. So that's going to be important. Warm clothes are going to be important as well. So it gets really cold. I don't know what the temperature is, but it gets pretty close to freezing. I think maybe 40 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe, or maybe lower. It fluctuates over the years. Again, this is only my second year going, but if you're looking for a cheap place to get jackets, again, thrift stores, go there, get a nice jacket, get some mittens, gloves. That's gonna be important. For your feet, bring boots that cover at least your ankles or higher. And the reason why boots are so important is that you got to keep in mind, this is a temporary city, so there's lots of rebar. So rebars are like kind of these metal stakes that kind of go into the ground, so that way structures and tents and stuff like that don't fly off. And whereas most people are generally pretty responsible at covering the rebar, so that way it's not scratching you, or putting their generators or things like that away from harm. There will be cases where your ankle will be exposed to sharp things that you don't want to hit. So make sure you always have boots at least to your ankles, if not higher, and have that kind of be your boots that you wear all the time. Now, also have a pair of flip-flops. So I always have a pair of flip-flops around my tent. And the reason why I have that is so that way, if I'm making a short trip to the bathroom, or if I'm just going to get something from the car, I could just put my flip-flops on, walk there, and walk back. So two types of shoes is going to be important. The last thing I'm going to talk to you about is transportation. So bicycles. So some of you are probably online looking up Craigslist, finding bicycles, and thinking like, oh man, I don't want to bring a new bicycle, and I don't want to have it be destroyed at Burning Man. Well, you don't have to. So what I would recommend is that if you don't have a bike that you want to sacrifice to Burning Man, and you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on a bike just for Burning Man, I would say buy one as you go towards Burning Man. There's lots of small towns that you get into when you pass through, and there's tons of people selling bikes, and I think they're about $50. So make sure you have space, so you can put space in your car, or a rack that you can throw it on, and you can do it that way. But also, I'd like for you to really consider bringing and buying tons and tons and tons of lights. So this is where you want to get EO wire or flashing LEDs, a bunch of battery powered stuff. Just light your whole bike up, because it's dark, and the more lights that you have, the better chances that you'll be seen from far away. And especially if you're going in a small group of people, the more unique that your lights are, the easier it is to find you, because after going into a crowd of people, you'll get lost pretty easily. So be creative in terms of how you want to light yourself up. The other thing would be bike locks. So bike locks are going to be important, and the reason why is, people may take your bike accidentally or on purpose, but I mean, either way, it happens, and you don't want it to be you. So get a cheap $10 bike lock that is a combination lock. Don't get the key ones because the last thing you want to do is you want to fiddle with a keyhole in the dark, and if dust gets into it, it gets more difficult to unlock. So you don't want to deal with all that hassle, and what you want to do is kind of get a combination lock, and so that way you can set a pretty basic combination and do it that way. So that's that, and I hope this helps.